Sorry about that. My Zoom is misbehaving. There we go. I should have it on the screen now. Let's optimize this for video. Okay, we're going to talk about pass interference and what constitutes pass interference, both defensive pass interference, offensive pass interference, and situations that are defensive holding that may or may not convert into defensive pass interference. So first, let's understand some of the fundamental philosophies with regards to pass interference. And the first one, obviously, is advantage versus disadvantage. In order to have any type of pass interference, there has to be a clear advantage, disadvantage. So somebody has to gain an advantage over their opponent in order for there to be a foul for pass interference. That's the first prerequisite philosophically if we're going to rule on pass interference. Next, we need to see if there's some sort of a restriction when we're talking about defensive pass interference. The offensive player restricted the defender, restricted the offensive player from making the catch. And if we talk about offensive pass interference, did the offensive player create separation and therefore gain an unfair advantage by separating himself from the defender in order to make the play? So that's the second criteria we need to rule on. And then we need to understand what constitutes incidental contact and what constitutes material restriction. So hand fighting, two players that are on the same yard line or occupying the same space that are mutually combating with each other and neither has gained a clear advantage over the other are examples of things that would not constitute pass interference, or philosophically we would not rule to be pass interference. Also, entanglement of the feet, things of that nature. If we talk about pass interference, and if you think about it, pass interference in order to be called is going to be 99% of the time contact that occurs above the waist. Any contact below the waist is going to be typically ignored because it's going to be entangled feet or inadvertent contact of the feet, unless somebody just blatantly goes out and trips somebody, and then that could be converted into some sort of pass interference, but that is a very rare circumstance. So that's the third criteria that we need to analyze when we're evaluating. So we always say in the States, and I'm sure you've heard this to death, but we'll go over it real quickly, that we try to categorize DPI and OPI. If we can't put the foul into one of these buckets, then what you saw was probably not pass interference. So going through them real quick is the grab and restrict. Obviously, to grab an opponent may or may not be enough for pass interference. There must be a restriction. Playing through the back, which is contact prior to the pass arriving through the back of the opponent. The arm bar, which is extending the arm out to prevent the opponent from gaining a position that they want to gain on the field. The cutoff, similarly, is where you use your body or physically ride your opponent out of position that they are wanting to get into. The early contact, not playing the ball. Obviously, all DPIs are early contact fouls. So to say it's early contact is not enough. It's early contact, not playing the ball. That would become a foul. And possibly the most difficult one, at least in my opinion, when I was a downfield official, was the hook and turn, because the arm wrapped around the waist necessarily is not a foul. It's to take that hook and then turn the opponent to create the advantage that constitutes the foul. So those are the categories that we want to constantly be able to place our fouls into. We don't talk enough about OPI. We generally focus on DPI. So I'll open it up with the first play is going to be an OPI situation. And again, we have player in motion going to the top of the screen. So I'll let you understand what your keys are, but somebody has to have an awareness on that. The offensive restrictions begin at the snap. Obviously, we don't have anything here, but just going back, we haven't seen enough yet here. Just by the amount of space that this player has, something should be suspect. So the flag comes out by the deep official here. We'll get a look at it from a couple different angles, and it will show us what we need to look at. So the offensive player is restricted from the snap as opposed to the defender, who is restricted once the pass is thrown. So once we get through all this announcement here, good announcement by our referee. As far as the offensive pass interference, we'll get a second look at it here. Coaches generally never like offensive pass interference until it is against them, but when it's called against them, they never like it. But here it is. Number 14 clearly goes downfield. There's nothing there, but he drove his opponent out of the way, which is blocking downfield, which is a category of pass interference. Now, remember the philosophy here is the offensive team knows the route. The offensive team knows the play. It's their obligation to get out of the way of the defense because they know where they're going, or they know where the play is going. So for number 14 to consciously go downfield here and actively block, he's actively engaged number 15. He's created that separation, which has allowed this defender to cut across the field and attempt to catch the pass. So that is OPI for blocking downfield, but blocking downfield is actively engaging your opponent downfield. Take a look at another play here for OPI purposes. Okay, you got to recognize your keys at the snap. We have one player in the backfield, so we're going to have some short wings taking a look downfield, but it empties out pretty quickly. This back that came out of the backfield was pretty wide open. So we have a flag downfield here, and it's going to, again, be for shedding his opponent, as you see there. He didn't throw to this guy, but he's restricted at the snap. So number 19 sheds his opponent. So he's created a material restriction there and allowed himself to get open. So this is a good example of a play that ultimately doesn't go to number 19, but since number 19 is restricted at the snap, this is a foul for OPI. It's a foul that we would want called. Ultimately, they dump the pass off to the back in the backfield, but a correct call for OPI. He creates material restriction or material separation for himself. Take a look at number 19 here on the far out of the screen here. Again, at the snap, he's got it. He dumps off his opponent, clearly opening himself up. Even though it goes to number 30 in the flat, that's a foul for OPI. Number 3 is a suspect play for offensive pass interference again. We'll take a look here at this play. It starts at the snap. Now we have this receiver who catches an apparent pass for a touchdown. He clearly has a yard and a half space in between him. So we say suspect because obviously we have to gauge, was there a material restriction or a material separate? Whoops. Jeez, if I did that. Sorry. Found the play and found the play again pretty quickly. That's good. We'll have to gauge here. Obviously, the official's on the run. It's a long pass. Our field judge is in the best possible position that he can be to rule on the play. So no quarrels about the mechanics there. The fans obviously not pleased with the result for Florida scoring there, or for Tennessee scoring, but we'll take a look here. And I want to go back to something that Jim alluded to earlier on one of the rules changes. This play brought attention not only for the pass interference part of it, and I will ask Jim very quickly here before I go into the play to comment on this. But we have said this official is not in a position to officiate at the time that the ball is snapped. So this play should have been shut down. Would that be your interpretation?
Yeah. Until he's completed turning around, he's not in a position to officiate.
Yeah. So we let this go, but the CFO since then came back and said the center judge is not in a position to officiate here. So this play should have not been allowed to snap.
And the center judge can shut that down and say, "Look,
yes.
I wasn't in position. Stop, reset the ball. We'll do it again."
If your referee likes you, he would have done that for you. If you're a center judge, I would certainly suggest you clear yourself out before you. I mean, if you shut the play down late with a whistle or whatever, but don't start blowing the whistle in this area here where he's stuck. Because if you enjoy having all of your teeth still attached, I would avoid trying to go after your whistle here and blow it to shut it down. So get yourself in a safe spot, shut it down. But really, your referee here should be cognizant of the fact that you're not in a position to officiate and shut this play down. But regardless,
we don't want referees to be staring at the center judge all day. So.
Yep. Regardless, here on the OPI play, we have player goes downfield. He's obviously got space, so that's red flag. So we'll look at the sideline angle here. 15 goes down. They both give each other a push. Now the question is, do you feel that there's a material restriction here or a material separation. I think it certainly should raise your antenna, but I think both number 2 and number 15 here are mutually combating, and I don't think number 15 has done anything that clearly separates himself from number 2. So it's certainly a play to raise your antenna. Take a look at it one more time, but I don't think there's enough here to say that number 15 clearly separates himself from number 2 to create an OPI situation. Okay, I'll talk about defensive holding here. So note that we can have defensive holding as well as the rule change with that with regards to defensive holding now being an automatic first down too. So keep that in mind. But anytime the pass gets in the air, we're going to convert all those DH fouls into DPIs anyways. But let's take a look here. We have a balanced formation, so I'll let you guys discuss keys and all that amongst yourselves. We shouldn't be here discussing keys. I hope we're beyond that. The quarterback has to check down to the guy on the flat on the outside. So we'll take a look. Obviously, it wasn't against that player. Our second look will give us a better look at the action. So you got to know your keys. You got to know, yeah, he clearly hooks him. Now, whether or not that has any material restriction on the play is debatable, but it certainly should get your antenna if you are the back judge. If you've transitioned over to this area, or if you have a second glimpse at it as the deep wing here, it should certainly raise your antenna. It seems that the hook, if you're quick enough to determine, it looks like 17 was looking at him as a potential target and then had to dump it off to the receiver on the flat over here. So was that restriction enough? It probably was. It probably should have been a flag for a defensive hold. There is certainly a material restriction there. The defender takes number 8 off of his stride and takes a step away from him, thus forcing the quarterback to throw it out. So that should have been a flag for DH. The question is obviously who is going to pick that up. It's not the deep wings key at the snap because he's the second man in on this. The question is from a long way away, is that back judge transitioned over here fast enough to catch that? Can a short wing possibly help us out? Maybe, maybe not. This guy has broken off to the flat. So have we switched the zone? Those are all things that you need to self-evaluate if you're a deep official. Can you get to this action? Obviously, our keys are only as good as they are when they have action on them. This player really has no action on him. Even at the snap, he has nobody pressing him. He has nobody within 5 yards of him. So is it really necessary to keep our attention on number 7 if you're the deep wing? Sure, that's your key, but there's nothing going on. So officiate, move on to something else. Yep.
Precisely.
You should see there that there's something going on with number 8. They've taken a step away from him. That should be a foul for defensive hold. All right, let's talk about a defensive hold versus a DPI and what constitutes converting one into the other. The red zone offense. Got a flag comes out by our side judge. Is it going to make a difference? Yeah, because if we have defensive holding, we're going to have a half the distance penalty with an automatic first down, as opposed to whether we have a DPI and we have a foul in the end zone. Different rules apply with regards to ultimately where this pass is going to end up. So the crew discusses it here. They do it over O2O, which is a common thing here in the States. I don't know how common that is for you guys. They ultimately rule on defensive holding. Certainly there is a restriction. The debate here and the preference by the CFO and by the committee later was that this be converted into defensive pass interference. There certainly is a material restriction, and that restriction continues while the pass is in the air. You can see it. He still hasn't let that go. This should have been a foul for DPI in the end zone, and then would have placed the ball at the 2 as opposed to the half the distance penalty previously and the automatic first down. So recognize that. This may be one where your partner helps you out. The non-calling official, whether it's the back judge or the short wing, should chime in and say, "Hey, that was in the air." At least plant the seed for you to allow you to correctly convert that into a pass interference as opposed to a defensive hold. Good yet. It certainly is a foul, but this should have been pass interference. Makes a difference as opposed to being on the 2 and as opposed to being on the 6. All right, there's a no call for DPI and whether this is mutual combat or whether this is material restriction. We'll talk about that. It's going to take place at the top of the screen. So we got 2 players engaged here. There is no call on the field. Seems okay to me from first glance. Obviously, we're going to get a second look at it. We're going to get the isolation view. This is the deep wings key. Obviously, at near the goal line. Excuse the dog in the background. Near the goal line, obviously there's going to be much more compressed space, so we're going to have to be with our keys here. Obviously, scoring plays are much more relevant. This is enough of a stack here by the defense that I would say he's pressed. He's immediately pressed at the snap, so your attention should be on him. We have 2 guys just mutually engaged with hands there. I don't see enough from that angle. Certainly you could say that the defender has got a hold of number 5, but is he restricting him from making the catch? It's tight. It's questionable. I don't think you would have a supervisor that argues with you whether this is called or isn't called. At the NCAA level, this is a pass. This is not a foul. This is mutual combat by the 2 receivers, and they do not want that called. Number 7, we'll take a look here. This is a you make the call type scenario, so I'll let the play run, and then we'll talk about it. Do we have DPI or not? First glance, it looks like he got some pretty good timing in there. Obviously, we'll give ourselves a second look at it here. We only get 1 look at it on the field, but we'll get some second looks here in isolation. So it's a long pass play, obviously, down the field. Now the question is, did he time this perfectly? Or does the arm grab does the arm grab come ever so slightly early? This is too close to call. This is good, I would say, as far as not being PI. Certainly you have both players coming back. The only thing you could go with is that the defender never turns his head to look for the pass. So if you threw the flag here and you put this into the category as early contact, not playing the ball, I think you would be supported with that. If you were ruling only on the contact, I would say this is bang bang and a good play by the defender. But I think the defender is on the hook here for not turning around and identifying the football. So I think this should be a flag for DPI if you're going to call it for not identifying the ball, not playing the ball. All right. In order to have DPI, we have to have a catchable forward pass. So we'll take a look at play number 8 and we'll discuss the rule of catchability. Snap is going to come to the top of the screen. Defender clearly gets yanked. Gets a yank in there and takes a step away from the receiver. So there certainly is contact. Now, whether that pass is going to be catchable is up to the determination of the officials. We'll take a look at it again from the high end zone view. Ball's over here. Defender got yanked. Defender got the yank in at about the 1 yard line, took a step away from the receiver. He's still in the end zone. So now a rule of thumb for the officials at the CFO level is if the pass is within the relevant zip code or within the relevant area to be caught, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt that it's catchable. These athletes are gifted athletes, and they can make some remarkable plays at times. We've all seen them. So just don't assume that a pass is catchable. For us, for this to not have been catchable, it probably need to have landed by the gator back here or somewhere in the first row of seats. But that pass is close enough that he has a chance to catch it, and the side judge should have evaluated this for pass interference. It's over his head. I get it. You're going to have that argument. You're going to have to apply the judgment on your behalf as to whether you believe that number 9 had any chance to catch that. That's going to be your criteria to use for whether that pass is catchable or not. But again, always lean on the side that the pass is catchable when in question. It's going to it's easier to defend that the pass was catchable than it wasn't catchable. Because these, like I said, these athletes make some gifted plays at times, and you'll be surprised what they can convert into a catch, or at least have an attempt to catch the pass. So I think that's it for DPI, OPI, and DH. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to take them. But I think I got it in with a minute. A minute over is not too bad.
Yeah, fine.
Thanks, Alex. I was just going to say, I read something today which you'll probably find in the next rule book and the next mechanics manual, which is for a pass to be uncatchable, it has to be obviously uncatchable. When in doubt, it is catchable.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Alex.
You're welcome.
Appreciated. I think that's us just about finished. I'll just go back to the presentation again, just if everyone can remember the country contacts to send in your nominations, those who have not sent in their nominations, if you could do so as soon as possible. And just to finish up, I'd just like to thank Pierre and Jim and Alex for the presentations today. I also want to thank everyone for attending. We'll get all the assignments sorted out in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see you all again next week, next Sunday for the second session, where Alex will be back, and Bill Lemonnier will be there as well, and Bill will be doing some presentations with Alex. Okay, so I think that's it. If there's no further questions,
there's a question that Bart Killens asked earlier, and we ought to address it. The question is about a league in Netherlands and Belgium that wants to allow tinted visors. Well, that's not allowed, and you need to tell them that. But whether officials are liable or not, I'm not a Dutch or Belgian lawyer, so I can't say. This is something that you need to resolve with in those countries with that league.
Yeah, okay. That's fine. Okay, well, thanks very much, everyone. Thank you for coming along, and we will see you all again next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay,
Cheerio.
thank you.
Looking forward to it. Cheers.
Bye.
Take care, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Cheerio. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.